And there's all of these things that go on out there in their world, but it is their world and it's real to them. And we have to understand that it's real to them, and we have to deal with them that way. So they get this tremendous brain increase, and then we're going to talk about the rush. Okay? This rush is what we talked about a little bit ago. This is that plus 10. This is where they go, wow! Then they're going to try to binge and get back up to it, but it's not going to work. So now they're going to get irritated. And now they're going to start spending all of their energy out. They're going to keep binging, they're going to keep binging, they're going to keep binging until it's like, man, I'm getting tired, I can't last any longer. A lot of people are not going to OD on methamphetamine, although it can happen. A lot of people don't because you just get too stupid first. You end up just falling over asleep somewhere. You go over and take a nap somewhere, and boom, they crash. They crash for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, depending on how long they've been on a runner. But the bad part about that is after about 90 days of use, they don't really go through the crash mode anymore. They go through what's called a power nap. And a power nap is a 3 or 4 hour sleep, or 2 to 3 hour sleep, anywhere between 2 to 4 hours sleep. They put their head down, they sleep for a little bit, they get up, and they're going to use again. Because that's the only way they know to be normal again. And I'll prove that in just a second. We get to the tweaking stage, we call it stacking BBs because they think they can, or stacking bowling balls. Okay? And you may think it's really weird, but the bottom line is I've watched it happen over and over. They'll sit there trying to do stuff that's absolutely impossible. And you'll tell them, you can't stack bowling balls. I can do it. Okay. You say you can do it, I'll sit here and watch you do it. Or you think you can stack BBs, go for it. Okay? If you want to look at the carpet, it's just running around underneath your feet, then go for it. But when you come out of this, we're going to be right here to try to help you through it, because I know it's real to you. But you have to understand that it's not real in our realm. You can walk away from this. Now, we're about halfway now into about the 7 days, and you're going to find that they're going to crash, they're going to sleep, and then they're going to come up and they're going to think that everything is normal. This is where they're going to say, I'm never going to do that again. If you've ever had children or spouses or friends, you're going to be constantly talking to people that are saying, it's never going to happen to me again. I'm going to quit this stuff and I'm never going to go back. That's great. Right up to about 5 to 7 days, 3 to 5 days is the average now, but for the most part, give it an outstretch of 5 to 7 days. And look what happens. There's their normal, and then there's their normal. And every time they use and try to come back into this, after 9 months of use, I want you to understand where their normal is. There's their normal. Their normal was up on top. Now their normal is right there. So now understand that if you're going to measure this on a neuroscan or something, you have anywhere from the normal over here up to there. That's that much of a normal. And then you're going to take that same normal down over here. Where they're normal, they're going to get high. That's their normal. They're only getting high so they can see their children off to school, so they could be somewhat normal. They're only getting high now so they can actually make breakfast for their kids. They're only getting high so they can try to pretend to their parents or their family that they're not high, so they can have some type of normality in their life. That's the people that you're dealing with. At the very end of that, not far after that, you got 5 to 7 days before their body is going to try, at the max end, going to try to synthesize the process, because that's what they've taught their body to do. So at the end of that, right in the middle where it splits off, they're either going to go for the rush again, or they're going to withdraw. And they're going to go through, if it's a methamphetamine rush, you don't need to worry about all the physiological things that are involved in it. It's going to be right here. If it's heroin or opiates, you got a lot of physiological things that are going to come with it. But for the most part, they're going to either withdraw, go back up to the rush, or this is where a lot of people feel very suicidal, very, very depressed. I've got to do something about it. This is where they really need the intervention. They need somebody to stop them. At the end of this 14 days, log it. Know where they are, wrap yourself around them. This is where I get comical with them. This is where I tease them. This is where I let them know how much I love them, but I blast them with humor until they're laughing and they're just going, Tim, you're an idiot. I say, I know it, man, but we got you through the time. When they come downstairs at our house and they have a pimple, I make a big deal of it. I make a big deal of it. And I tell everybody that comes downstairs, okay? Because I get them used to this humor, and it's kind of a bad humor, but they get used to it, and they actually start loving it in the end. It's like they start missing it. But I tell them when they come downstairs, man, you're ugly. Or, boy, you're getting fat. I'm going to have to beef up my stairway just to get you down put an elevator in here or something. And they kind of look at you the first time like, what? And I just keep hitting them with all this and letting them know, I'm just having fun with you, just having fun. And then all of a sudden they'll start talking back. Because, see, I'm not, you have a baby right there? Okay? They start coming back to me and they'll put their hand on my gut and say, hey, when are you going to deliver this thing? And they'll start talking back to me. And you'll find that we've rehabbed lots of them. And out of the Good Samaritan, the ones that come into our particular house and they go over to Wanda's or whatever, Wanda's one of our mentors, they stand up on the Sunday morning and they talk about basically the good times that they've really had. And every time they get with me, it's always how I slammed them so much. But we gain this rapport and they always come back because they know that they're loved. But humor works. They're looking at something and they have to know what they're looking at. All that ugliness that you see, you just keep calling it until finally they don't believe you and they say, I'm not ugly. Yes, you are. I'm not ugly. Yes, you are. Look at you. You're ugly. You go out with ugly guys too. That's not true. And then after a period of time, they're fighting with you saying, no, I don't. That's not me. And then you can tell them, you're absolutely right. You need to think that way. And I just hammer them all the time. I have fun. I don't know. It's my morbid sense of humor, but I have a whole lot of fun with them. I told the Dr. Risky this yesterday, but there's this one guy that went to his doctor, and when he went up to his doctor, he said, Doc, he says, what's the news? And the doctor said, well, he says, I got bad news and I have worse news. He says, well, isn't there any good news? He says, nope, just bad news and worse news. He goes, okay, well, give me the bad news first. He says, well, the bad news is, sir, you got 24 hours to live. He says, that's the bad news? He says, how can it get worse than that? What's the worst news? I meant to call you yesterday. There is 5 main reasons why a person is an addict. Number 1, they have no purpose. They lost it. Number 2, they've lost their identity. That's very important. We'll talk about this in just a little bit. Number 3, one of the main ones, they've lost their confidence to be able to get to a particular point, even one stage at a time. Number 4, they've lost a positive attitude. Okay, everything is negative. And number 5, they do not have any spirituality. They do not have Christ in their lives to be able to get them there. Angie is successful because Angela has Christ in her life. That is her success. Without having Christ, very little success. 74.2% of all people that successfully rehabilitate will do so through a faith-based program, which the state and government says in the past that they cannot do anything about because there's a separation of church and state. But 74.2% of all of them that rehabilitate will do so through a relationship with God, which means the rest of the 25% that's out there, you're going to have 22 of the 25 that have to spend the rest of their life in AA, NA, but a constant thing the rest of their life, which means normality will be still very hard to get to them. There's 3% of them that actually make it on their own. Okay? So remember that. And that was really fast. Can the addict change? Can neuroadaptation be reversed? Absolutely. Alex Stahlcup told us that, which means once you're an alcoholic, you're always an alcoholic. Once you're an addict, you're always an addict, is actually no longer true. That has already been proven out. Most of the rehabilitation centers now around the world are starting to get into what is this reverse neuroadaptation and how does it happen. It happens in faith-based communities more than any other community where people come out of it. And immediately, the receptors are back to normal again, which means now they have the normal highs that everybody else would. Okay, this is serious, serious study if you want to get into it. If you're an addict, you always have to be an addict. Not necessarily. Does this mean you're always going to be like this? No. What can God do? Again, Romans 12:2. Philippians 4:13. Can we really do all things through Christ which strengtheneth us? And if they really can, is the faith-based community really showing them that? Not only when they come to you saying, I'm going to pray for you, or, because we tend to do a lot of that, or, you know what, keep it up, keep in the Word. That's really good, but have you ever been really, really depressed and tried to pick up the Bible to read it? They need somebody to walk through it with them. They need somebody to surround them with it. This is what our lives are all about. Can they be healed? This has been an argument for years. In not only the secular world, but also in the Christian world. You talk to a lot of Christians, and a lot of Christians will tell you, no. Once they're in that mode, they're always going to be that way. I got news for you. We've been doing this for over 20 years, and I can show you half of our congregation that are no longer addicts. They're helping people. They can be around it. Doesn't even faze them. Okay? I used to drink a lot, a whole lot. Okay? I'm not an alcoholic. God changed me. To know this, we have to go to 2 Corinthians 5 in verse 17. And that says that basically, behold, all things become new. God can really change me. I have to believe that in order to go forward. If I don't believe that, I have no business being a mentor, because what they're looking for is somebody that has that type of hope. If you go, you know what, man, you're going to have a struggle for the next 30 years. You're probably going to be married 4 times, lose your kids and everything, but you're going to make it. No,